Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. So, because Wikipedia is not a flawless program, and they definitely make mistakes, this is late because this is yet a July death that happened on the last day of July. Not the last day, actually, July 30th, which actually makes it very worse, seeing that today is August 5th of 2025. This is George Nigh. He is a governor. He was the former governor of Oklahoma, and just like Trump, he served non-consecutive term, which makes him special. George Nigh, the 17th and 22nd governor of Oklahoma, passed away on the 30th of July. And we, like always, we will do our part and honor and remember his legacy, regardless of political affiliations. George Nigh is a Democrat, but back then, Democrats were much sane and reasonable as they were compared now. And I would not say that George Nigh, he died at 98. I don't think he was mentally there to actually recognize how his party has really fell off the cliff. But I would imagine that his legacy was more conservative than the Democrats today. So we're going to go over his long electoral history because he was in office a long time as a lieutenant governor, and his career specifically begins in the House of Representatives. As you can see, from 1951 to 1959, Nigh alterned between service in the Oklahoma House of Representatives as a teacher in the McAllister Public Schools. Interesting. Imagine having a House representative as a teacher. I know I had in my school. I didn't have him as a teacher. But I had a teacher that, not a teacher, he wasn't my teacher though, but knew of a teacher that was a city councilman, and he altered between being a city council guy at the council and being serving at the local school. But ultimately, this guy, even more fun facts about him, he introduced the worst state song in this whole country. It's my opinion, but he actually introduced legislation designing the state song Oklahoma as a state song. And now, keep in mind, Oklahoma has lots of state songs, actually. Tons and tons. They just decided to pick this one, which was really, 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 really bad. Because this was used mostly it's because this song was designed to be used in a play, okay? So it sounds very scripted, lots of character lines, etc. And the last thing you would expect is this to be used as a state song. And I'm saying, okay, this wasn't the best move for Mr. Nigh. And I'm thinking, okay, he probably likes the song. He's probably saying, okay, he's proud of the song as an Oklahoman. I get it. But it's not a state song. It's not meant to be a state song. And it's like taking a song from The Wizard of Oz or something like that, because the gal that played Dorothy was from Minnesota, and making that song the state song in Minnesota. It's just ridiculous. Okay? I mean, you make a connection, and it's just ironic. But yeah, he made that legislation, and that succeeded. That made the song called Oklahoma, which of course was used in Rodgers and Hammerstein, which is a Broadway musical. Actually, no, I think that was the publisher. Never mind. Okay, Oklahoma is a Broadway musical. But yeah, I can understand why. Ran for lieutenant governor in 1958, and he finished second in the Democratic primary, 1958. In the Democratic primary, behind Cowboy Pink Williams. Nigh defeated Williams in the runoff. So yeah, that's right. Oklahoma has runoffs. So let's see. There are no Democratic primaries. Shoot. But we do know that he did come in second. He did defeat Nigh. He did defeat Barry. No. I'm Pink Williams, Cowboy Pink Williams, in the said primary with over in the runoff with 302,000 votes, 61%, which was a landslide. But I want to specifically look at his run for the lieutenant governor, where he was officially nominated as the Democratic nominee. And as you can see, he wins overwhelmingly, 76% of the popular vote. Oklahoma at the time, 1958. I get it. Oklahoma voted for Republicans that year. No, the year prior, the 2 years prior in the presidential elections, twice for Eisenhower. So a lot of people would say, if you did it like right now, you'd say it's a red state, but it's a state that relatively still votes for Democrats in the state level. And obviously, looking at this said results, especially in the South, right smack on the border of Texas, these counties in the South, 90% Democratic, very rural, unpopulated. Going up here, the county, Oklahoma County, more conservative. There you'll see the Republican nominee, George B. Sherritt. It's the Battle of the Georges, by the way. Sherritt's got 19%, almost 20% in Oklahoma County. But yes, understandably, well, in the Deep South, quote unquote, very, very Democratic. As the Deep South, or the Solid South, as you would like to call, was formerly a Democratic stronghold. Okay, so what happened after 1958? Because he doesn't run for re-election. Instead, he goes and becomes lieutenant governor again in 1966. So what happened? What happened eventually? So it said that Sherritt in a landslide, 76%, winning every county, I may add, taking office at age 31. Democratic Governor J. Howard Edmondson did not seek re-election in 1962 election, so Nye ran to succeed him. He came in fourth in the Democratic primary with 84,000 votes, 50% behind National Commander of the American Legion, Preston J. Moore, businessman W.P. Atkinson, and former Governor Raymond Gary. Okay, so yeah, Atkinson went on to win the runoff and lose the general election to Henry Bellin. So yeah, this basically describes it. He basically tried to run it for governor of Oklahoma. Didn't work out in his favor. We'll see if there's an actual primary for that. And I imagine there would be. This is the first round. So yes, you have Raymond Gary being the Democratic nominee. He's coming here. Atkinson would be the Democratic nominee. He would be the winner. But Nye would be eliminated immediately, just like that, because he didn't make it to the runoff. The runoff would ultimately be between Atkinson and Gary. But yeah, the counties won by Nye are in orange. That includes the county of Kay County. Let's go back. But you also have Pittsburgh. Nye. You got Logan County. You got, like I said there, and there's K, and that's pretty much it. I know there are similar colors like Garfield County, but yeah, Harris is another guy. Fred R. Harris. But 15%, not bad. He's taking some things home that is respectable, which is pretty bad to a certain degree because, look, you're a lieutenant governor, and you won 76%. People expected better. So a lot of people would say, yeah, your political career is over, Nye. And I would say, you know what? You had a good year as lieutenant governor, but this guy's like, nope. In fact, he is going to probably run again for lieutenant governor. Yes, as clearly said. But yeah. Yeah, he also was bachelor. Interestingly enough. So yes, did not seek re-election. Henry. So Addison went on to win the runoff and lose the general election, Henry Ballin, but Nye would get a chance to serve as governor. Democratic U.S. Senator Robert S. Kerr died in office on January 1st, 1963, and Edmondson resigned his office 5 days later. Nye succeeded Edmondson as governor for the remaining days of the term and utilized the brief status as governor to appoint his predecessor to the vacant Senate seat. On January 14th, Bellin took office as governor. So, interestingly enough, out of huge coincidence, the guy that lost the primary and didn't make it to the runoff, didn't make it to the general election, would become the next governor before the actual winner of the election of 1962 would take office, and that is Henry Ballin. So, really, he was elected governor. That doesn't mean he was governor, the next governor, right? He wasn't succeeding Edmondson. His actual successor was Mr. Nigh, who actually, that's where you get his first term from, 17th governor, which is very interesting. But yes, what happens afterwards? Nye had remained a bachelor until after he left public office for the first time. He met his future wife, Donna Mashburn, following his initial 9-day term as governor in 1963. So, just 9 days as governor. That's crazy. And married her on October 19th, 1963. When they met, Donna already had a young son. The Nyes later had a daughter together. Nye ran for lieutenant governor again in 1966, and he was opposed in the Democratic primary and in that election and his re-election efforts. So, looking at the 1966 Democratic lieutenant governor election, if we can pull that up, you can actually take a look here. Nye is successful once again. They remembered him, but it was not like his first time around. Okay, he had a good opponent, J. Robert Wooten, who had 47%. He got in the areas he needed to win. He bolstered support in, Tulsa County at 58%. That's double digits. You have Oklahoma County, relatively close, and that's probably how Robert Nye managed to pull it off. But you have areas around that. You got these votes with over 1,000 said votes. That was enough to, of course, help Nye. So ultimately, Nye ends up winning the election. And luckily, his career is safe. What helped him? He is known as the 9-day governor. I mean, I'm like, hey, look, you were the transitioner to the Republican administration. People have amazing respect for you and your transparency, and they probably rewarded him for that. I'm just calling it what it is. And this time around, he makes the right decision and decides, you know what, I'm not going to run for governor. I made a very bad mistake. I could have been serving a second term in 1962. You could have been doing that, but I decided to run for governor. So that's my mistake. But he goes in 1970, makes the right decision, runs for re-election, and he does relatively better, 57%. He is running against Ralph C. Thompson, and in that election cycle, it is relatively unclear. Is that 19... Yeah, 1978 is the actual time. But 1970, yes, 57%. The Republican Thompson ended up winning Thompson County. You also have these votes, counties, spread it out. Washington County, 54%. So the counties he didn't win were Woodward, Major, Alfalfa, Garfield, Kingfisher. What else? Blaine. Okay, that was Blaine County. There was Tulsa County, and of course Washington County. He runs for a third term in 1974. And my guess is he wins. That's my guess. Let's see if he wins. Nope, this is state treasurer. My bad. 1974. Yeah, he wins. In fact, he wins by a landslide. 72% of the popular vote. That's great. That's amazing for him. And he defeated Ralph E. Drews, who only took 27%. This isn't as big as his 1958 run. I think he cannot surpass his 1958 run, which was the best I think he could ever do. But this was a good win. He didn't carry... Okay, yeah, you did carry Harmon by 90%. That's good. Yeah. I mean, you got a good result here. And Drews took nothing home. I mean, nothing. And he took 30% home in Oklahoma County. Tulsa County, 34%. I mean, this isn't good results for the Republicans. And apparently, George Nye's career is saved. And he makes the right decision this time. He knows his popularity is good. And the probable reason is he said, you know what? I got 78%. Or 76%, whatever it was. I got so many votes, almost 80% of the vote in 1958. I'm going to run for governor in 1962. I have a mandate to do so. That's the common logic, right? That's the common logic. But, I think it was more of you had a war hero running. You got a war guy running. You got a cowboy running, allegedly. Sure, I mean... Oklahomans in the Democratic primary, I mean, hey, Democrats have more respect to those heroes as they do right now. But they tried to go for the war hero. But the war hero, I believe, lost the general election. But let's jump to 1978, and understandably, it's going to be more of a contested field. I think George Nigh knows that. And he runs against John Schatz. And... who is the Republican nominee. And you'll see he had some competition. This was not an easy cycle for Nigh, as he probably had hoped it would. He was running in the Democratic primary, 1978. Let's see. Governor's race, 1978. He makes it through the first round. 49%, you need 50% in order to prevent a runoff. He wins a majority of counties. He secures Larry Derryberry. That's a very weird name. Larry Derryberry is going to challenge George Nigh to the runoff. He does sort of this area. You understand that George Nigh has mainly a foothold in the major areas he needs to win. Tulsa, Oklahoma County. Well, I would like to see how much he won those areas, because as long as he wins in these areas, I think he has a shot. Although Larry Derryberry can take these votes in the rural areas, add them together, and it can cancel out that suburban and urban vote that Nigh has. But yeah, Oklahoma County, 50%. He should feel very good about that. You also have Tulsa County. Should feel about that also. He's above water, 51%. So I think Nigh feels good. He almost secured the nomination. If he could have done 0.7% better, then got a little bit more votes, there would be no runoff. But unfortunately, he didn't get 0.7% more, and there was a runoff. So... 78, there's a runoff, and obviously, ta-da! Actually, no, this is a Republican nomination. Never mind. Let's try that again. 78. Ta-da! There we go. George Nigh 57%, as we could have expected, because he was so close to breaching the top. But yeah, as nothing really changes. As you can see, 71% for Nigh in Tulsa. That's huge. Huge advantage. You also got Oklahoma, 59, almost 60%, relatively still very good. And you're seeing Larry Derryberry still along that southern border along Texas. That's probably where his sphere of influence is. So that's his result. He runs against Ron Schatz. He wins. Despite losing Oklahoma County and Tulsa County, despite winning Tulsa by 71% in the runoff, he wins the areas to cancel out all those votes in Tulsa and Oklahoma County. Probably all this area. You got the 70% in the Deep South. You got the eastern part of the state, very Democratic at the time. That benefited Nigh quite well. And obviously, that gave him the governorship, 51% of the vote, although it was indeed a close round. Now, Nigh runs for governor, again, re-election, and surprise, surprise, he wins re-election in a landslide of 62%. Now, sure, probably Nigh would have preferred better results, like his 58 sort of result, but he did relatively very well in a governor's race. We do know that it is much of a higher ground. People show up to vote in this race specifically, so he should feel very good. He carried the Deep South, by over 80%, 70% in some counties, so he's probably feeling very good with this result. He has a mandate, and he does seem to have a good political career ahead of him. He could go and run for Senate, but unfortunately for a lot of the Nigh base, Nigh decides not to run for any more offices. I want to believe he's term limited. Are you term limited? Is he term limited? Okay, Henry Bellman runs for a consecutive term. Fun fact. But I believe Mr. Nigh is term limited. Makes no mentionings of Nigh in this article. And regardless, Nigh has decided not to seek any office. And by this time, he is of old age. This guy was born in was he in old age? I think he's like in the 70s, 60s. No, probably 60s. And he ends up retiring. He actually starts, of course, to handle himself with his family. So this guy served in office for a long, long time, from the early 50s, actually, to the early 80s. That's a almost 4-decade political career. And he passed away in the end of July, on the 30th. And I don't know his standpoints. I did see that he was endorsed by auto unions. That doesn't mean anything. Like, I have no problem with the unions, auto unions. I have the problem with the teachers' unions, because the teacher unions aren't doing their job. But the auto workers, they do their job. So I don't have beef with the auto workers. But when it comes to his stances, they're probably understandably more liberal. There's a reason why he's in the Democratic Party, guys. He probably grew up as a Democrat, wanted to remain a Democrat. That's been his lifelong identity and lifelong allegiance, and just doesn't want to leave that. And that's respectable. He fought in World War II, which he was pretty young, World War II veteran. But yeah, but yes, despite major accomplishments like getting a very weird state song, making the state song of Oklahoma, which isn't a state song, it's a song that is a part of the play Oklahoma, which should remain a part of the song in the play, not in the state. It's cringe if you actually, it's not cringe if it's in a play, because plays are cringe regardless. I mean, that's what they're meant for. But when you take the song and you put it into government, that's just cringe more than the song itself. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this said video? Let me know down below, and as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.